God save the Queen. And now we have the shipping forecast provided and issued from the Met Office. In the North Sea, becoming variable, 3 to 4 later, fair, good. High Irish Sea, becoming variable, 2 to 3 later, fair, good. There are some windy conditions in the southeast, with speeds of around 35 miles an hour approximately. Southwest, these are also very similar conditions, 33 mile an hour winds. And now a fan letter. This comes from Hardish Verk. He wants to say a big shout to the Coventry fishermen on tour and to get home safe. And now it's time for Man Parris and Reflection.
Good evening and welcome to Reflection Series 1. Tonight we look into graffiti on the streets of Coventry in the 1980s, and we ask the question, is graffiti now classed as art? Michael Batchelor, artist, explains and reflects.
When I was 8, I was at junior school and I was the best at drawing, and we had an old school overhead projector, and I was really fast at drawing, so sometimes the teachers would read a story while I draw the story, which appeared like on the wall, and I could illustrate it at that speed when I was about 9. I was in and out of hospital a lot because I was accident prone, and all my spare time I was either drawing or reading comics, basically. My aspirations at that time were no longer than the next day, to have a better Action Man. That was it. I lived within walking distance of all the people that I knew, and I was very happy.
Andy Clare, artist also known as kept owner of Spray Station, explains.
I was riding my skateboard, and I was always drawing, but that was mostly for myself. It was just a pastime. If I couldn't go out skateboarding, I'd sit at home and draw in my sketchbook. I wasn't really showing anyone my drawings. It was just for me. So it wasn't until I actually had an injury from skateboarding. I was quite badly injured, so I couldn't skateboard. I needed something to do to pass the time. I was drawing in my sketchbook, and I was seeing all this graffiti when I was like catching the train to Birmingham, and there was stuff around in Coventry, but it wasn't quite on the level that I was seeing in other cities, and I just wanted to try and see if I could bring some of that to Coventry. And I didn't think that people were paying attention. I wasn't trying to be in anyone's face. I wasn't trying to be causing damage or anything like that. I'd actually seek out derelict buildings to paint in to practice the art form. But I soon found out that people were noticing, and I was inspiring people with what I was doing. They were then going out and spray painting on walls themselves, and before I knew it, people were approaching me and asking if I could teach this at youth centres, if I could paint the side of their business for them, or paint their kid's bedroom, or anything. And I thought, well, I can make a living doing this. Yeah. But that didn't come until much later. You know, I was in my 20s by this point, late 20s.
I did a piece under the bowling alley on Longfellow Road, because I lived on Longfellow Road, and I think it might have been one of the first pieces in Coventry, and it was basically a cartoon character of the yellow hat, which most graffiti artists will know is an iconic thing, copied from a Vaughan Bode cartoon, which was in this book Subway Art, which is our Bible, if you will. About a couple of weeks later, I saw that there was a legal piece by a guy called L.J. Jive, which was round the back of the Co-op, and that was in the Evening Telegraph. Now, I haven't got the clip, but you could probably get that from somewhere. That's mid-80s, might be 83, 84. and that was like a legal piece which I had permission for. And I've not seen the guy since, but he's a Coventry guy, and he did one of the first legal pieces. So that's quite important. I don't think many people talk about him.
In the 1980s and early 90s, as I was growing up and I was looking at the walls, the graffiti on the walls in Coventry, there were certain names that I would see, like Asp, Omen, Detain, so many. And I would see the artwork by a guy called Toz, who designed a logo for a record shop called Banging Tunes. These are the guys that inspired me.
Then I got my first legal piece about 8 weeks after that on the shops on Longfellow Road, which were opposite number 94, 96, 97. They're now a block of flats. And it was an off licence, which was open all the time. And they let us paint on the side of it. But because I was stupid and young, I forgot to prep the wall with emulsion before we did it. And after about 2 days, all the paint had soaked in. So you could still see it, but it had no sharp lines. Now, I didn't know at the time. No one told me. And there's no books on it or videos on it in those days. So I'd spent all day painting this picture. The owner gave us some money for doing it. And I'd got 8 people helping me do it. And we took the photos, and then it disappeared because it soaked into the render on the side because we didn't, know to paint emulsion on first.
And as a kid, and I was like too young to be buying spray paint, so I'd be practicing in my sketchbooks, and I'd be practicing with marker pens on walls. Often, walls I shouldn't have been writing on.
Rob May, artist, aka ASP178, describes.
Back in the day, because the spray paint nowadays, you can put it pretty much on any surface as far as I can tell. But the stuff from Halfords back then, we used to have to go there the night before if you were doing a wall and get a can of whitewash and paint the wall white and then come back the next day and do the graffiti on it, and it was dry because the spray paint just weren't up to it. I mean, nowadays you can spray paint on anything. It comes out like tar, doesn't it? But yeah, so you'd do your drawing. You'd go to you'd find your spot where you were going to paint. If it was on a train, you didn't bother with the whitewash, only on walls. And then you put up your whitewash, go back the next day, acquire all the paint, and then you'd go back when the whitewash was dry and you'd paint it up on the wall. Whereas if you were doing it on trains, it'd be the same process, but you ain't going to go down and start whitewashing the side of a train. So it was the smell that you got from the trains. Whenever I go to a train station now and a train pulls in, and I can smell that smell. So I'd say definitely the old train yard where Central 6 was, because we used to get pallets, wooden pallets, and prop them up against the trains and climb up it so you could get higher up to do your piece. You'd be in there for like 4 or 5 hours painting the side of a train. But it was just so exciting, and the smell of it, and yeah, magical is a magical thing. Magical, planned with military precision as well. That's why I suppose that's why I became so well known for it, because it was more than just a pastime to me. It was, it was everything. I've always been obsessive. My missus says it all the time. It's like, if I'm into something, I obsess. Like graffiti, raves, then music production. I mean, I love making music. I've always had that thing where I can't be forced into something, like learning at school. I can't be forced into it, but if I've got a genuine interest in it, I'll go for it. You know what I mean? 110% every time.
So 1983, every single person hated it that was over 30. You live in Coventry, you don't live in New York or Paris or Rome. So, like, art in Coventry, wasn't a big thing. Certainly, it was too new to be liked by the establishment. And even though I had a good case argument as an older lad talking about it, they were like, well, yeah, but it's going to be here today, gone tomorrow. I mean, I actually said that wouldn't be the case. And the fact that it was being in fine art galleries in New York was a big deal. But most people said to me, why are you wasting your time? Or why don't you use artistic talents to learn how to spray cars was a what a good statement made by somebody.
Nathan Gascoine, also known as D-Tank, reflects and tells how it was.
Coventry Evening Telegraph, they put this article together. I'm sure it was even the middle pages, right? I'm sure they had a whole inlay, right, of people's tags and asking who's this, have you got any information leading to these people's arrests and stuff. And they were just trying to, I think, scaremonger people into either not doing it, or trying to highlight people who may knew who were doing it, and get names. And the weird thing was they had a whole section of police. I'm sure of this, right? I'm not 100%, but I'm certain of it, right? The whole section of a police force that was literally targeted, right, to go out and find who we were, right? But they were stupid, because they would go out sort of early evening, or just before they clocked off and let another shift on. They're never going to find us there. They went in these, in unmarked vehicles. Well, to them, in their head, unmarked vehicles. But the times we'd been arrested, we'd write down when we got released. We'd write down, we'd go in that car park and we'd write down all of the registration plates, right? Toz will tell you, Rob will tell you, anyone who's a graffiti artist will tell you this. You know what I mean? That's what we used to do. We used to write the registration down, Back then you'd have unmarked Maestros, Montegos, okay? And they'd go round in them thinking they were smart. Well, we knew who they were, So you either kept away from them, you know what I mean? Or, they'd be patrolling the streets, right? Well, any good graffiti artist, right, ain't gonna know patrolling those streets. You'd be down the back streets, right, finding a place to get up and then get up, you know what I mean? And you wouldn't be spending 2-3 hours casing a joint, you know what I mean? You do it there and then, bam, done, and off to the next one, you know what I mean? Some of the really prolific writers, they were brazen, they got up, sometimes even broad daylight, they just get up, and in places that were very hard to reach, like bridges and stuff like that, buses with the surfing that I told you about, and they'd find them hard places to reach, but they knew full well in their head that people's eyes would be drawn to it because it's so inconspicuous. Well, what's that doing? What's that doing there? How did that get there? So in their head, that's quite an ingenious thing to do, because who would have the balls to do that? You know what I mean? Well, graffiti writers have the balls to do that.
Jay Older, he was one of the lads. Leon Chapman, obviously Doc Scott. Even back then, he was the leader. He was the main guy, because I think D2, that was the first tag I saw, and I was just starting to get to grips and think I want to do this. Just started seeing D2, just D, double E, and then Roman numerals. And when we all met up, he was the guy that sort of arranged it all, and we all used to meet up every Saturday on the steps to the old ABC cinema. It's gone now, isn't it? But we used to meet there every Saturday and go over to Birmingham and buy records and stuff, because even back then Scott had turntables, and when we were doing the graffiti and that, he was into all the scratching and that. So he literally was in the right place at the right time. When the rave scene bounced, it was like, well, hang on, I've been buying this music since it first come out, and I've got DJ skills, so he just took it into the stratosphere, didn't he? But even back then, in the days of the graffiti, he was always like the leader. Do you know what I mean? The organizer. The if you had when you see in the police in America when they have the mafia on the wall, and you have all the soldiers and then the capos, Doc Scott would have been boom at the top. With the graffiti thing, he would have been like the boss of bosses or whatever. Who else? This is where I could get in trouble, because people I know really well are going to be like, why didn't you mention me? I used to do graffiti with you.
A friend that I was actually living with, his girlfriend had a brother. Now, this guy was a graffiti artist from the city of Hull. And he's a guy called Parris. And he'd left behind some spray paint when he was up visiting. And he said, oh, I don't mind if you use that if you want to practice. So then it was on, just going out and finding a location, practice on. And as I say, we weren't really trying to be vandals, we weren't trying to upset anyone. I was looking for out of the way places where I could practice without offending anyone or getting caught or getting into any kind of trouble. And around that time in Coventry there were a lot of derelict buildings around, so it was a perfect environment for us to practice in without causing any criminal damage, as it were. However, that soon became. We soon decided we wanted to experience the rush of doing graffiti on the streets, and we started putting it up around some of the subways in Coventry, but that got us noticed. We were then approached by people who were saying, look, we run a youth club, would you be able to teach this skill to the young people that we have? And I thought, wow, you go from writing on a wall thinking that you're not supposed to be doing it, and then you're getting these offers of work out of it, basically. So I thought, I had an epiphany. I was like, this could be a career.
Then the next big piece I did after that was with a guy who became a policeman, funnily enough. I won't mention his name, but I do have a photograph and I have put it online. We did a piece in the subway by the back of the police station, I suppose. We thought we were being dead daring because it was right by the police station. But the irony is, the guy in the photograph with me did become a policeman about 5 years later. But I won't mention his other crimes.
To be honest, mate, it didn't really occur to me until I went to the Godiva Festival 10 years ago. And there was some guys there doing graffiti at the Godiva Festival on boards. And the missus, I just said, I've got to go and look at this. So I went over with the missus, standing there. And one of them turned around, and because I said, that's looking smart. And I can't remember, they were like, do you do graffiti? I was like, I used to years ago. You wouldn't have heard of me. And they were like, who were you? And I was like, I was Asp178. And he was calling his mates over and everything. And he's like, you never guess who this is. And you're not. And that's my missus was like, bloody hell, I know you used to do that, but I didn't realise it had that effect. I was like, neither did I. At the time I didn't know. But I would say to any kid that's going to do it, try and do it legally. Don't go out stealing paint. It's easy enough. Well, I don't know about these days. I mean, it was well easy in my day. I used to literally fill my jacket up, get 15 cans of paint in one sitting. Sorry, Halfords, I really am sorry. I know, it is what it is. Sue me. But kids today, I'd say go for it, man. Just because you can do it. You can do it in art now at school, can't you? My day, you couldn't. No, we ain't doing that in here. That's vandalism. That isn't art. But I had no idea the legacy, for want of a better term, that I'd actually had behind me with it all. I just thought, that's something that happened and it's gone now. But then when I seen them guys at the Godiva Festival, and then there's a really well-known graffiti artist from Cov at the minute, Abel. You must have seen it. A-B-L-E. He's everywhere. He's in Birmingham. And I met him at a graffiti exhibition at the Herbert Art Gallery years ago. And he said to me, he was like, do you know, you're the reason I started doing this. I mean, what higher compliment could someone give to you? This guy, he's everywhere. I get the train over to Birmingham a lot, and he's everywhere. And he said to me, Abel, he said, you're the reason I started doing this. So, that's good enough for me. No matter what else happens, just hearing that of someone that's gone on to be such a prolific graffiti artist himself. Yeah, he's like, you're the reason I started doing this. That's insane. That is insane. Just some my actions have caught, it's mad. Makes you feel all warm inside.
There's two types, right? There's people who want to get up. So the kings of getting up are, in my opinion, in Coventry, Asp and Abel, right? Who have, there's a linear approach to what they do. And in the graffiti world they would be held in high regard. There are other people who like to do what you might call a full-on picture, which is characters, letters, or a style or an abstract, and that would be me. And there are people who can do both styles, which would be, say, for example, Andy Clare. There's also Gesser, I highly rate. Myers, who I highly rate.
I was just inspired by the whole New York hip hop movement, and big part of that was graffiti. So I'd say in the beginning I was trying to like emulate my heroes, but then I wanted to like kind of redefine what a graffiti artist was, you know, do something a bit more artistic with it, try and make a living out of it, you know. You don't get paid for writing illegal graffiti on a wall. So I just kind of thought, well, we can turn this almost into a business where we're offering that graffiti style to people, because they, you know, people like it. I know that from reactions that I was getting on the street. My motivation was just to get good. I just wanted to get good. That's all I wanted to do, was get good. I wanted to be as good as the people that I was watching growing up. I wanted to be better than the people I was watching growing up. That's all it was. I was like, how far can we take these spray cans? Like, what can we achieve with them? Like, there's more to this than just writing your name, you know. Whether it's a cartoon character or whether it's a photorealistic portrait. I just wanted to kind of challenge what people thought about graffiti and what was possible with a spray can. And that took me in some different directions to the traditional graffiti art that you see on the walls. So I started doing it on special paper, which allowed me to manipulate the paint on the surface in a different way than a graffiti artist would. Graffiti art is all about not touching the surface. It's just you, the spray can, creating your artwork. I started using artist sponges, paintbrushes, bits of newspaper to create textures. This wasn't anything new, but it was kind of developed on the streets of Mexico for tourists by panhandlers. So I took that and I mixed it with the skills that I'd learned from graffiti and my freehand drawing, and basically tried to come up with my own style of spray painting and spray paint art.
My earlier record of like seeing graffiti was on that Birmingham line, literally on the slow train, right, and it used to stop at every station from Coventry to Birmingham, you know, something like 8-9 stations, you know, and it stopped at every single one, you know, and you would see this brightly coloured art, you know, on the bridges, even in the tunnels, you know, and you think to yourself, wow, you know, as a kid you'd just be like, wow, that's just, wow, jeez, you know. And it was only later on, sort of in my teenage years, that sort of I gravitated towards that, because it to me it was beautiful, you know, and still to this day, you know, I'm 46, it's still very beautiful. I was always drawn towards graffiti. I'll take graffiti over any other form of art, you know, because I don't come from the ghetto, you know, but I come from a place which embraces that, you know. That's why I love it, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I kind of had it in me that what I was doing it wasn't just wanton vandalism. It wasn't just scrawling my name. I wanted to like make the place colourful. We live in such a grey city. I know what I was doing. I was putting colour on the walls, and I felt that there was some artistic integrity which gave me the right to do that. So yeah, like, and plus I wasn't writing on brand new walls. I wasn't writing on the side of someone's shop without their permission. I was carefully selecting the spots that I would be writing on, so as to get noticed but not really get myself into too much trouble. I'm not saying it was completely legal, but there was worse things going on, you know. I think I think I may have got a pass by the fact that I was putting some effort into it rather than just wantonly vandalising. You know, I was working towards something. I had that in my mind. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I definitely felt that was my calling in life, and I would just follow my instincts. If I just saw a wall and I thought my piece would look good on it, then I would just paint it. And it didn't bother me if it was in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night. I would just do it, and it would get passers-by, and to be honest, most of the reactions I got were positive.
You could argue, does that count as street art? You know, is a sculpture street art? Is someone sticking stuff up on a wall street art? I mean, personally, I think anything public is street art, but that's just me. And the link between graffiti and street art is much argued about amongst the hardcore people, like the 3 lads who died on the train. They're keeping it real, as my friends would say. Well, that's keeping it real, because the true spirit of it is youth, danger, and trying to do something that nobody else can do in a place no one else can do it and get famous. So that's as real as you can get. But will anyone remember them in 100 years' time? It's difficult to say. I would like to think so. I'd like to think that all the people who died or got injured will be remembered, but they'll fade as their work fades. If there's anything left of you, it will be a thing, because one day everyone who knows your name is gone. In fact, I heard it said once, you die twice. Once when you actually die, and once when the last person who's ever heard of you says your name. It's very controversial, because at the moment some Bankses have been taken off a wall and installed in several places in London for private profit, you might say. Now, while certain graffiti artists are not really liking this, the fact is, in 100 years' time, people will have heard of Banksy. They may not have heard of the transient graffiti artists because their work won't still exist. You can go and see the Sistine Chapel now, it's still there. I mean, it might be decaying, it might be falling off the walls, the plaster might come off, but it's still there. You can still see a statue in Italy, or Nelson's column. So whoever did these pieces of artwork, people are going to look at that thing and say, who did that? So if graffiti artists move on and start doing other stuff, or can get their stuff in a place where it is permanent or semi-permanent, then we will still be talking about it in 100 years' time. It's certainly a movement that will be written about, but at the minute there's only like 5 or 6 artists who anyone will care about in the future. And in my opinion, the top 2 would be Scene for graffiti and Banksy for street art.
Presented by Man Parris. Editing and sound recording by Phil Noisy B. Evans and Carl DJ Boom Lambert. Trainee sound technician Katie Dowling. Written and produced by Adrian Patrick Dowling. Was edited at Plus Radio Coventry. This is a Daylight Robbery production 2018. Good night and God bless.